Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring the intersection of technology, philosophy, and politics.
Yeah, a pretty complex intersection.
It is. It is. And we're going to be looking at things like artificial intelligence, the singularity, and a movement called neo-reaction.
Neo-reaction NRX, you might hear it called.
NRX, yeah. We've got two sources that we're going to be looking at today.
Okay.
One is an article from Viewpoint magazine, and the other is from a website called transam.org.
Great sources to jump off from.
Yeah. So to start things off, I think one of the best places to start with all of this is this idea of Roko's basilisk.
Yeah, Roko's basilisk. It's a really interesting place to begin because it kind of gets at the heart of a lot of the anxieties around artificial intelligence and the singularity and all of that.
Right. And for people who might not know what Roko's basilisk is, can you just give us a quick overview?
Sure. So Roko's basilisk is this thought experiment that originated on the Less Wrong forum, which is, if you're not familiar, kind of an online community dedicated to discussions about rationality and artificial intelligence and things like that. And it basically postulates that in the future, there could emerge a super intelligent AI, a being of almost unimaginable power, and that this AI might decide to retroactively punish anyone who didn't contribute to its creation.
Oh, wow. So even if you knew about this possibility but didn't do anything to help bring it about,
Yeah.
you could be in trouble.
Yeah, theoretically, yeah. I mean, it's a thought experiment. It's not like it's not like an actual threat.
Right.
But it really kind of probes at these anxieties that we have about AI and this concept of hyperstition.
Hyperstition.
Yeah, hyperstition is this idea that fictional ideas can influence reality, particularly when it comes to things like powerful AI. So like just by knowing about Roko's basilisk, you're already kind of implicated in this whole thing.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but on like a cosmic scale?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So where does neo-reaction fit into all of this? Are these the folks who are like actually worried about being punished by this digital deity?
Well, neo-reaction NRX is kind of a strange beast.
Yeah.
It kind of emerged out of the same online rationalist community, this group that's fascinated by AI and the singularity and the potential of, this kind of technological utopia or dystopia, depending on how you look at it.
Right.
But neo-reaction kind of takes these ideas and applies them to political ideology.
Okay.
So they advocate for things like a return to traditional hierarchies.
Okay.
And in some cases, even authoritarian rule.
So instead of fearing this AI, they're looking to it as a potential solution, like a way to enforce a new world order.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the key figures in this movement, you have people like Nick Land,
Okay.
Curtis Yarvin, who goes by the pseudonym Mencius Moldbug,
Okay.
Michael Anisimov, and they all kind of share this view that traditional hierarchies are more efficient, more stable,
Okay.
particularly in a future that's dominated by potentially super intelligent AI.
So it's a pretty stark contrast to the democratic ideals that a lot of societies are built upon.
Is anyone outside of these online forums actually taking neo-reaction seriously?
Well, it might seem fringe,
Yeah.
but it's actually surprisingly found some sympathizers in Silicon Valley.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk have expressed views that align with certain aspects of neo-reaction.
That's pretty unexpected. Silicon Valley is usually associated with, disruption and progress, not like a return to traditional hierarchies.
Right, but you have to remember that Silicon Valley is also very much driven by this idea of technological solutionism. This idea that technology can solve all our problems, and for some people that includes the problems of democracy.
So what's the connection there between neo-reaction and Silicon Valley?
Well, Thiel, for instance, is a big proponent of seasteading.
Seasteading.
Yeah, the idea of building autonomous floating cities outside of national jurisdictions.
Okay.
And this aligns with this NRX idea of exit over voice.
Exit over voice. Yeah, so choosing to withdraw from existing systems rather than trying to change them from within.
So instead of fixing the problems with democracy, they're just going to build their own societies, potentially ruled by a select few or even AI.
Well, some NRX thinkers do advocate for what they call GovCore, essentially. Right. Societies run like corporations, often with a CEO-like figure at the helm.
Wow.
They argue that this would be more efficient, more stable, especially in a world where technology is rapidly changing.
It's a fascinating vision of the future.
Yeah.
It's a little unsettling, to be honest.
That is, yeah.
But it's definitely thought-provoking, and it seems like this Roko's basilisk plays a role in their thinking, like a cautionary tale almost.
Yeah, this idea that if we don't create a society that's capable of managing a super intelligent AI, then we might face the consequences.
Right. Or maybe by embracing some of these NRX principles, we can kind of shape the development of AI
Yeah.
in a way that aligns with their vision of the future.
Right, it's this idea that we need to get ahead of it
Yeah, get ahead of the curve.
so that we're not caught off guard when the singularity hits.
It's a lot to consider. I'm sure our listeners are already forming their own opinions about all of this.
I imagine they are.
But before we get too deep into the weeds of NRX,
Mhm.
I think it's important to take a step back and look at the broader concept of accelerationism.
Yeah, accelerationism is a good next step because it really kind of encompasses a lot of these ideas.
And that's something that we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Looking forward to it. So accelerationism, it might sound a little intimidating, but it's really just this idea of pushing technological and social change forward instead of resisting it.
So embracing the future no matter what it brings.
Well, not necessarily. There are different flavors of accelerationism, you could say.
Yeah, okay.
So you have like right accelerationism,
Mm,
which is often associated with NRX, with people like Nicolan,
right.
and they see capitalism as the main driver of this kind of progress. And they believe that technological advancements driven by the free market will inevitably lead to a more hierarchical society.
And they're fine with that.
Yeah, generally, yeah. I mean, they see it as kind of a natural progression.
So they're basically saying let capitalism run its course, even if it leads to more inequality or, empowers AI in ways that we can't predict.
That's one way to interpret it, yeah.
Okay.
But then you have left accelerationism,
Okay.
which takes a very different approach.
Mhm.
They embrace technological advancement, but for different reasons.
Okay.
Thinkers like Alex Williams and Nick Cernusek,
Uh-huh.
they believe that we can harness technology for egalitarian ends,
Okay.
to liberate us from work, from scarcity, from oppression.
So it's not just about accelerating change for its own sake, but about steering it in a direction that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about using technology to create a more just and equitable society.
That's a much more hopeful vision, I think, than the right accelerationist perspective. But how does all this theoretical stuff actually play out in the real world?
Yeah.
I mean, we're already surrounded by technology, algorithms,
Right.
AI.
Right.
Are we already living in an accelerationist society?
It's a good question. I think we are in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the artificial intelligence that we interact with every day.
Yeah.
The algorithms that curate our news feeds,
Right.
facial recognition software that's being used by law enforcement,
Uh-huh.
all the personalized ads that seem to follow you everywhere online.
Yes, sir.
All of these technologies are shaping our lives in really profound ways.
Yeah, and they're only going to become more sophisticated, more integrated into our daily lives.
Right, exactly.
So in a way, we're already on this path of technological acceleration, whether we're consciously choosing it or not.
I think that's a really good point.
So how do we ensure that AI and technology in general are developed and used ethically?
Mhm.
Especially with, groups like NRX advocating for a very specific vision of the future.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think one of the most important things is just to be informed, to understand the potential risks and benefits of AI, to really engage in these open and honest conversations about its implications for society.
We need to go beyond the hype and the fear-mongering and actually have a nuanced discussion about how to shape this technology in a way that serves humanity.
Right, exactly. I mean, it shouldn't be the other way around.
So how do we do that? How do we make sure that, AI is used for good?
Well, I think we need to demand transparency and accountability from the companies and institutions that are developing and deploying these AI systems. We can't let them operate in a black box, making decisions that impact our lives without any oversight or input from the public.
Right. And we need to be aware of the potential biases that can be embedded in AI systems.
Absolutely, because as we've talked about, AI is only as good as the data it's trained on. And if that data reflects existing societal biases, then the AI will perpetuate those biases, often in ways that are very subtle and difficult to detect.
So diversity and inclusion in the tech industry is incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if the people who are designing and developing these AI systems don't represent the full spectrum of human experience, then those systems will inevitably reflect those limitations.
Right. And we'll end up with a future where technology reinforces inequality rather than helping to dismantle it.
It's not just about the code itself.
Yeah.
It's about who's writing the code and what values they bring to the table.
So ethical considerations need to be at the forefront of AI development.
Absolutely not an afterthought.
Well, it seems like this deep dive has taken us from the theoretical realm of thought experiments like Rocco's basilisk to the very real implications of AI bias in our daily lives.
Yeah, it's all connected, isn't it?
It is.
Mm.
It really is. And it's a lot
Yeah.
to process.
Yeah, it can be a lot. It can feel overwhelming, but I think that's precisely why it's so important to be engaged and informed. Because ultimately we have the power to shape this technology. We can make sure that it serves our collective good.
It really feels like we've come full circle. We started talking about these like abstract digital deities and techno-feudalism, and now we're talking about the very practical implications of AI in our everyday lives.
And I think that's the thing that's so important to realize about all this stuff. It's not just theoretical. It's actually shaping the world around us right now, whether we realize it or not.
And throughout this journey, we've seen how technology is not simply a neutral tool.
Right.
It really reflects our values, our biases, our fears even.
It's like a mirror, reflecting back at us who we are, what we aspire to be.
Mm-hmm. And that reflection can be both inspiring and unsettling at the same time.
It is. It forces us to confront, the darker aspects of our nature,
Mhm.
the potential for bias, control, oppression.
But it also presents us with, I think, a really incredible opportunity to learn to grow, to steer technology in a direction that aligns with our highest ideals.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity.
So where do we go from here? What are some practical steps that we can take to ensure that AI is developed and used ethically?
Well, I think education is key, We need to inform ourselves about the potential risks and benefits of AI and really engage in these open and honest conversations about its implications.
And not just in like abstract terms, but in very concrete ways.
Right, exactly. How is AI being used in our workplaces, in our schools, in our healthcare systems? What are the potential consequences, both positive and negative?
We also need to, I think, demand transparency and accountability from the companies and the institutions that are developing and deploying these AI systems.
Absolutely.
We can't just let them operate in a black box, making decisions that impact our lives without any public oversight or input.
Yeah, and we need to support the organizations and the individuals that are working to promote ethical AI development and use...
The researchers, the activists, the policymakers, the artists,
Yeah, all of them.
and we can be informed consumers of technology. We can be critical thinkers about the information that we're presented with. We can advocate for policies that prioritize human well-being alongside technological advancement.
I think that's a really important point. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all this stuff,
It is.
but we're not powerless, Our collective choices, our actions, our voices can make a difference.
So to kind of sum up this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
we've explored some pretty complex ideas.
We have.
We've encountered concepts that might seem strange, unsettling even,
Yeah, definitely.
but I think it's through understanding these different perspectives that we can begin to navigate this complex landscape.
It gives us a framework to work with.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to explore the source material for yourselves. The articles from Viewpoint Magazine and transam.org offer, I think, a much deeper dive into these fascinating and at times unnerving concepts.
Yeah, there's a lot more to unpack there.
The future of AI is not predetermined. It's something that we create together.
Mm.
And I think by engaging in these critical conversations, by asking the tough questions, by holding ourselves and each other accountable, we can shape a future where technology truly serves humanity.
That's the goal.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.